absolutely happy I am to be here. A huge thank you to Mandy, Josh, the White Sutton Syndrome Foundation, the conference organizers, and really all of the families that all of you are here today. We're just super thrilled to be here. It's great to have the opportunity to talk to you about the work that we're doing in Simon Searchlight. So, for those who either haven't heard of us or maybe need a bit of a refresher, Simon Searchlight is an international research program with the goal of accelerating science and improving lives for people with rare genetic neurodevelopmental disorders. And I'm biased, but I do think we have a really excellent team. We have a team of scientists, clinicians, engineers, product managers, genetic counselors, communication specialists, really lots of expertise on the team, all working behind the scenes to hopefully create a positive, valuable research experience for you and your families, and to generate important data that helps drive scientific and clinical advances forward. So, what are the goals of Simon Searchlight? Overall, our mission is to shed light on these conditions by collecting high quality, standardized natural history data and building strong partnerships between researchers, industry, and families. And so we do that first by collecting detailed medical and behavioral histories along with blood samples. We then synthesize this information that you provide and share the results back with you, the families. We want to make sure you're getting insights from the data you're sharing with us, pooled together with other folks in the community. We also freely share data, de-identified, very much focused on privacy, but freely share this data and samples with qualified researchers who are interested in learning more about POGZ and other communities in Searchlight. We also connect researchers and participants from around the world because we don't want families just to participate in Searchlight. We want to give families the opportunity to participate in other studies as well. And ultimately, all of this is to promote better understanding of these genetic changes. And so Simon Searchlight is a genes first cohort, which essentially means that to enroll, someone has to have a genetic diagnosis that is on our list of genes. And so typically these are genes that are associated with autism or other neurodevelopmental disorders. We also have sister studies, including SPARK, which is a diagnosis first study, so individuals enroll with an autism diagnosis and their family members. We also have a sister study called Autism BrainNet, which is a postmortem brain tissue donation program, again, focused on autistic individuals. And all three of these programs are fully funded and supported by the Simons Foundation Autism Research Initiative, or SAFARI. And this is one department through a bigger philanthropic organization called the Simons Foundation, which focuses broadly on basic sciences and mathematics. And so beyond these cohort studies, SAFARI also provides funding for outside researchers to conduct studies either in animal labs or clinics, and then all of the research resources that are generated from the cohort studies, again, are de-identified and become curated and available for researchers and clinicians to analyze. So that could be animal models, that can be cell lines, that can be the survey data that you provide, and other data types. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. So this is a long list, but we do study over 180 conditions. And apologies, it's a bit smaller on this projector, but over there in the yellow box is the POGZ gene. So that is where we are today. The Simon Searchlight program is available for registration in English, Spanish, French, and Dutch. And we also have more languages on the horizon. And so what kinds of data are we really looking to capture with our online surveys? We're really looking at participant-centered, high-priority, useful data, data that's useful to you and your families today and the families tomorrow, and to really look and capture changes in the condition over time at younger and older ages. So looking at longitudinal data collection, data that we can scale up over time and over the group, and in thinking of understanding the conditions better, we do tend to prioritize standardized, validated surveys that are sensitive to change over time. And so here's a list of some of these surveys that we ask about. So at the very top, what you'll see are lab results. So in order to enroll and fully participate, we do ask families to submit a laboratory report. This is then reviewed by a certified genetic counselor, and then that really unlocks participation in the rest of the study. So for those who are in Searchlight, if you registered and consented, thank you. Please also submit your lab report. That way you'll be able to fully participate in the study forward. And so at least at time of consent and lab report submission, once that unlocks the rest of the surveys, we ask questions about medical history, previous developmental and mental health diagnoses, medication use, and then we also have surveys focused on items such as sleep, seizures, development and skills, overall behavior, communication, quality of life, and more. And then what you'll see is that a subset of these surveys, we also ask for annual updates. So every year we'll ask you to check in and repeat some of these surveys, again, so that we can see change over time. And so for those who are in Searchlight, this might look familiar to you. This is not a real participant, but the dashboard basically looks the same. So at the top, we have our family progress bar that shows which steps to complete. And right in the middle is, if you have 5 minutes right now, what would we love for you to do next? So that next priority task here for Jennifer Doe is the annual medical history survey. And then further down, what you'll see are next tasks that are assigned to you for completion. And then as a token of our appreciation to you for taking the time to share with us about you and your family, we do provide gift cards after survey completion, and that is in the reward section. And so we're always looking for opportunities to expand out or get deeper dives into data. So these are a couple of measures we're working on currently. The one that is most closely on the horizon is that top one, ORCA. That is a measure looking at minimally verbal and nonverbal communication. So I have talked a lot about what we ask from you. So what are we hoping to give back to you? So that looks like information shared back with you in a few ways. This could look like personalized reports that exist on your dashboard. So the same place where you're completing a survey is where you would see these. We do this for a subset of measures that are listed here: social communication, child behavior checklist, seizure history survey if it applies, and some others. We also do, instead of just looking at that individual, we want to pool you with everybody else in the POGSI community to say, what does this community look like overall? So we'll do summary snapshots that look something like this. Actually, your community just passed the threshold to get a quarterly report, so stay tuned in the next maybe 1 to 2 weeks, depending on the schedule, and those are going to get published, so you'll see one of those, and I'm sure you'll get an email from my colleague Erica. And so we'll typically display here summaries of medical history, and then we try to rotate a spotlight on the second page of new and interesting information that we think might be helpful. And then finally, we also will give presentations that are a little deeper dive into the data at conferences like this, and we also present at other bigger scientific conferences as well. And so I'd like to also highlight another program we have, which is called Research Match. So this is where I was talking about connecting researchers directly to participants. So to date, we've had over 3,400 families across Simon Searchlight that have been invited to participate in this program. And what it looks like is that researchers can contact us if they're interested in recruiting families from a specific community, and then we can connect them. We can essentially let families know that people are interested in recruiting for studies, and then if you consent, we can make that linkage happen. And then additionally, if researchers have surveys that they want to distribute out to the community, they can leverage our software essentially to build out that survey, and we can send it on their behalf, and then they would have access to that data as well. And so in Simon Searchlight, you also have the opportunity to donate a blood sample. One of those opportunities is at this conference. So Simon Searchlight is in Salon 9, I believe. Yes, okay, thank you. On the second floor. And so, for those who are interested in learning more about Searchlight generally, if you're interested in donating a blood sample, you can chat with my team, my colleagues that are up on the second floor at the booth, and then that's where the blood draw would happen. Additionally, for those based in the US, we do have opportunities to send a blood sample kit home free of charge. We would ask that you make an appointment at a local Quest lab to actually have the blood drawn, and then the lab would mail that kit back to Searchlight, so we would have your sample from there. And so why are we even interested in collecting blood samples? So researchers and clinicians can really learn a lot about each individual with POGZ from blood samples and different biospecimens that you can make from a single blood sample. So things like whole blood DNA, lymphoblastoid cells. There's another marker called the peripheral mononuclear blood cell, or PBMC, and these can be used to create a different cell line called an induced pluripotent stem cell, or an iPSC. And so what are these iPSCs? Essentially what this looks like is someone with a genetic mutation, or anyone really, can donate a blood sample, and then that blood has already decided it wants to be blood cells. But what we can do is we can then treat those blood cells and return them back to a more infant-like state, a more stem cell-like state, and then treat it with additional treatment to essentially turn it into a more mature version of a different kind of cell in the body that we'd like to study. So whether that's a neuron or a brain cell, liver cell, other tissue. And so this is really useful technology because it helps a lot with learning more about different disorders, as well as helping for drug screening and discovery when thinking ahead towards therapeutics. And so iPSCs are a really fantastic resource, but they are also incredibly resource intensive to make. And so we are just super thrilled and gracious to have this partnership funded by Safari and the Nancy Laurie Marks Family Foundation. This is a funded collaboration between Sampled and the New York Stem Cell Foundation. And what this looks like is that a select subset of blood, so not everybody's blood, but a select subset can be turned into stem cells through this pipeline. And then those stem cells are available for qualified researchers to then access and study in their labs. And so to date, we've developed over 150 iPSC lines across 20 plus gene groups, many of which are available today for researchers to request. And so I'm talking a lot about all the data we collect, and the question is, like, is anyone actually looking at it, right? And the answer is yes. People are definitely looking at the data. So this is just a quick summary that is already a bit outdated, but each row is showing different data types that we collect in Simon Searchlight. So for example, we've had at least 170 research teams looking at our survey data, close to 100 teams looking at different blood sample biospecimens, and the POGZ data will be included in the next phenotypic or survey data collection that will be published hopefully by end of 2024, now that we have enough surveys to be able to share. And again, whenever I'm saying we're sharing data, this is de-identified data. We take all the precautions necessary to secure this data, but we also want as many qualified researcher eyes on that data. And so these data can then be analyzed and used to publish papers so that even more individuals can learn about POGZ and other conditions. So we've had Simon Searchlight data used in genetic reference guides and scientific journal articles, presented at scientific conferences, and so more qualified individuals looking at these data to learn more about the condition. And so hopefully I've given you a good overview of the overall infrastructure of Simon Searchlight. And so now for the rest of the presentation, I'm going to talk specifically about the POGZ registry in Simon Searchlight. So currently we have 47 individuals signed up online, and from those 47, 25 have submitted a genetic laboratory report. So thank you to all who are participating. And for those who are in between step 1 and 2, I would highly encourage, if you can, to submit your lab report, because then you'll really get access to the rest of the surveys and opportunities. So then after that, step 3, 19 individuals have shared important medical history data. 20 have filled out additional surveys beyond the medical history. And we don't currently have blood samples, but definitely I expect by the end of the conference that 0 will turn into a non-zero number. So I will not spend a ton of time on this slide. I think you'll be getting lots of genetics talks and data and insights tomorrow, but just to kind of quickly orient you to what the population looks like in Simon Searchlight specifically, we have 21 individuals with POGZ pathogenic and likely pathogenic variants. Again, meaning these variants, we are confident that this is more associated with the conditions that come with a POGZ diagnosis. We do also enroll folks with variants of uncertain significance. So we have 2 VUS participants currently in the POGZ community, but we're not showing their data throughout the rest of the presentation. If that VUS gets upgraded to a path or likely path, then they would be included in presentations moving forward. And so just to quick overview here is essentially we are showing the different sites along the protein product that would come from POGZ gene, where the mutation in that gene would impact that particular protein area. And so the little lollipops are representing different types of variants that we see in POGZ. So missense variants, having that switch, frame shift or nonsense variants impacting the truncating that protein. And then the different blue rectangles here representing simply different functional regions of the protein product that have different important roles and that also interact with each other. And so we are an international research program. So globally across Searchlight, we have individuals enrolled from 79 countries. This includes 23 POGZ participants in 5 countries, which you can see here in the yellow map markers. Our overwhelming majority is based in the United States. And so from our 16 POGZ participants living in the States, again, these are not exact locations, de-identifiable, just overall ranges showing that we do have folks from across West East in the United States here. And so finally, I will dig into some of the data insights that we do have so far, but I will caveat to say that our data set, given the recency of the addition of POGZ into Searchlight, is a smaller data set. It is more of a preliminary data set. And the more data and surveys that we collect in the program, the better we'll have a more accurate representation. So right now we have 12 individuals who have submitted with the likely path variants with medical history data that have been summarized in the following slides. So this is showing the age range of individuals, the age at which their medical history was reported. And so most folks here are under the age of 18, but we do have a range of 3 through to 30 years with an average age of 12 years, 5 female and 7 male participants. And so to orient you, most of the rest of the slides will look something like this. So the title will show kind of an overview of what we're describing in the slide. The graph itself on the y-axis or the vertical line is showing different conditions within that umbrella that we are asking about if in lifetime the individual was diagnosed with that. And then the bar is showing how many number of people are reporting having that condition, both the raw number and then in parentheses the percentage relative to the whole group. And so longer bars will mean more people are reporting having that diagnosis. So as an example here, we're seeing all 12 individuals from whom we have data reporting intellectual disability or developmental delay, almost all reporting language delay or impairment, a smaller subset, about 60%, reporting autism, and then fewer people reporting other conditions such as anxiety, ADHD, and obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, if we take a big picture medical issues overview from head to toe, similar orientation of the graph. The way it's organized is the body systems at the top are less impacted in the data that's in Searchlight. That caveat will exist across all the slides. And then further down on the graph are those body systems that are coming through more commonly in the community. So what you can see at the top here, orthopedic and kidney conditions are not coming up as much in the POGZ community. We see slightly more individuals reporting joint problems and heart-related issues, most commonly hypermobile joints and hypertension. Then even more percentage of people, close to a quarter, are reporting issues with seizures as well as autoimmune issues, most commonly being chronic fatigue. And then we start to get to those those higher numbers in the endocrinologic system, about 50% of individuals reporting a condition within there, surgeries that are being done to help manage some of these conditions, and then the highest numbers in the visual system, the neurological system, and the GI system, mostly constipation and GERD. So if we dig into some of those higher numbers, in the neurological conditions, we're seeing about 60% of individuals reporting low muscle tone or hypotonia, about a quarter reporting microcephaly or small head size, and then fewer folks reporting such as tic disorder and coordination problems. In seizures, we have 3 individuals reporting seizures out of the 12, so that's only about a quarter of individuals, including these subtypes of seizures listed here. And then when we move to the visual system, in the 12 individuals from whom we have data, the more commonly reported condition is farsightedness, as about a third of individuals. And then we're also seeing other visual conditions such as crossed eyes, astigmatism, and other conditions reported here as well. If we move into the endocrinologic system, most commonly reported, again, these are the 12 individuals from whom we have data, is obesity in a third of individuals. We have diagnoses of failure to thrive as well as precocious puberty in close to 20%. And then you can see kind of one individual reporting across a couple of other conditions, including short stature, irregular menses, hypothyroidism, and diabetes. This is an overview of some of the information that we collect on surgeries that people are getting. So close to 60% are reporting having any surgery in lifetime. This is mostly head and neck surgeries at about 50%. And then in some cases of surgeries related to dental surgeries, GI issues, musculoskeletal, and other surgeries. We also ask about medication use, and so what medications folks are using and for what purposes. We have only 11 individuals with medication use data thus far, but what we're seeing is about 36%, or 4 out of the 11, are reporting medications to help treat GI issues. Also medications for severe behavior and mood, so this can look like neuroleptics and mood stabilizers, but that could also be used for sleep. We have folks reporting medication use for sleep, antidepressants, which could be used for mood, but also anxiety, OCD, other behavior, other diagnoses, as well as cannabidiol or cannabis and medications for attention hyperactivity. So again, this is a very preliminary overview. There are only 12 individuals with medical history in Simon Searchlight, so the more data that we collect, the better we'll be able to communicate back the findings we have. But this early preliminary snapshot is showing intellectual disability and developmental delay most commonly in the data, language delay as well, hypotonia or low muscle tone, vision issues, and endocrinologic issues. And then less commonly, but still important to note, issues with seizures, small head size or microcephaly, autism, and GI issues. And so as I mentioned, with more data that we have, the more we can report back. Just now I only included the medical history data, but if you'll recall back to that table, we do have a lot of surveys. For better or worse, we do have a lot of surveys on the platform. And so with that, the more data that we capture, the more we could summarize back. So this includes Vineland-3 data, looking at adaptive behavior, development, and skill building. So we have growth charts that we can show, showing over the life course how development is tracking across the community and within individuals over time as well. We can report out on behavioral concerns that parents may have through the CBCL data, seizure history survey. We do deeper questions on seizures such as age of onset, medications effectiveness, types of seizures, other milestones or developmental stages that might impact seizures, things like that we can kind of dig into more if we have more data, as well as other surveys. And so overall, I'll close just to highlight a couple of reasons why you might be interested in joining Simon Searchlight. It is a voluntary research program, but if you're interested, we do have great expertise and credibility in the program. We've had a really awesome team. I know I keep saying that, it's like the bias is showing, but I just love our team. They really stood the test of time. We've been in the rare genetic neurodevelopmental disease space for many years. We have great leadership with Dr. Wendy Chung, Dr. Cora Taylor, and Safari Leadership. We are a multidimensional international research program, and we really believe in investing in the patient organizations that we work with and the broad research community through our data registry, our community advisory committee, where we solicit input from the community about what we're up to and what direction to go into, as well as our biobank resources. As I mentioned, the data that you provide, we try to share back with you as much as we can, and hopefully easy to understand registry updates and reports, or at least we try to. I'm very open to feedback. And finally, we really want you to represent yourself in the data set. We do, again, to reiterate, de-identify the participant information before sharing with the research community, and we do follow the highest standards of data security to support that effort. And so I'll close just to thank you for your time and for listening to me for however many minutes I've been up here. If you're interested in learning more, please do visit our website at simonsearchlight.org. That's also where you could register. We also have a team here, as I mentioned, in Salon 9. Even if you're not interested in a blood sample and you just want to understand more about Searchlight, we can talk to you about that as well. Or if you're like, how do I get on my dashboard? We could also help you with that. We're on all the socials, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And the best way to contact us afterwards, or even here if you don't want to come to the booth, is directly to our inbox coordinator at simonsearchlight.org. So thank you, and thank you again to the organizers for having us. And if there's time, I'm happy to take questions. If not, I can also talk offline.
Can do questions. I don't have any from the stream.
Yeah, so we have a very strong researcher network that has tapped into the data for different communities. So some researchers are interested looking across conditions, which might be particularly relevant here, given that we're also collaborating with JAMP1. And then some folks just want to dive into one single group. So it's a bit of a range for earlier stage communities. I think our biggest impact is helping to facilitate some of that community building and early preliminary insights for folks who just may not have ever met another person with the condition, or the doctor hasn't. For more advanced groups, our data has been used to help fully understand the natural history over the life course, which can help with development and determination of outcome measures towards different bigger picture studies or in-clinic studies. We've had a number of different publications come through, and we've had industry partners interested in our data as well to help facilitate some of those more therapeutic-oriented goals.
Go ahead.
All right, so can you all hear me?
No, it's off.
All right, so we've come to the fun part of the night where we do those cheesy icebreakers. No, I'm kidding. So part of this journey, I know before, like when you get a diagnosis, it's pretty lonely. It's a pretty lonely road, I feel like. You kind of feel like you're on an island by yourself, and we want to cultivate a community where you guys feel supported and know each other a little better. So that way when you go back home, you can outreach to somebody who might share some of those same positive stories or have had some of those same things that you have struggled with. So with that being said, we emailed out a little summary for our icebreaker, but it's more of like a round table for victory stories for the community. It's totally voluntary. You do not have to get up and share. This is not something we're going to force you to do. But we did want to provide you guys an opportunity to select one person from your party who wanted to give, it's about 5 minutes per person or less, if that's who you choose. Just some kind of victory, something that was challenging, you were in the face of something with something that related to White Sutton and how you overcame it, or how you're working on overcoming it, or something that helped you overcome it. And so those are some of the things that we're looking for those who want to share in this journey. I was going to pull up the document really fast here. I had it. So some of the guidelines are we're going to be sorted randomly. We're going to be butting up towards our reception. And so we're going to be moving into our reception hall, and we will continue those stories in there. You'll also have time to mingle and get to know each other a little bit better. But like I said, we're going to pick one family representative. Make your applause short so we can get through our people. And then, so tell a little bit about your victory, the challenges, the implications placed by a doctor, or a history of failure, or what was the success. And then what secondarily benefits have you seen with this victory? So are you ready?
Yep. So we have, I put together a list of all the attendees based on the person who registered. So it's not the person whose name I call that has to talk if you want to talk. But then I sorted it randomly so that we could try to get as many in as we can, but be fair. So I don't know that Carrie Woodruff made it here, but she was the top of my list. Okay, you are here. Great. Do you guys want to share? Great.
Thank you. My name's TJ Woodruff. Our daughter Tegan Woodruff is our little girl with White Sutton. She's 10 years old now. We've been homeschooling for quite a while, and the big victory that we had in the last 18 months or so was reading, which we have an 8-year-old neurotypical daughter who is reading novels by this point, and our 10-year-old, due to dyslexia and the vision problems that are often associated with White Sutton, just could not get it. She does well with audio, if we read to her audio books, that helps her with learning. But we discovered, as many eye doctors as we've seen, we somewhat stumbled across something called vision therapy, which has been super helpful to us. And luckily in the state of Florida, and I'll say for the good and bad parts of Florida, but they have the Step Up for Students scholarship that for any Florida residents that you guys can run the vision therapy through that. So we were able to get it covered because it's unfortunately not insurance covered and costs like $2,000 for 6 months. But at the end of that, a lot of diligent work,